He died at that age, at 40 to 50. And the level was high of all the hormones. But because due to our longer lifespan, we reach this low low hormone level. Here is 40, 50. And that was our lifespan. And now our lifespan until 80 or 70, 80, and all the hormones have disappeared. So it is ethically correct when we when we give the people here the hormones. Yes. And here, we mentioned it yesterday, here, cholesterol, that is the starter for all pregnenolone, DHEA, aldosterone, estradiol, and so on, progesterone. On the start is always cholesterol. And what do? We fight against cholesterol with statins. With statins. That's idiot. Really. What is the best remedy to reduce the cholesterol level? The complementary one. Yes, you must know it, and you must do it in your test set. That is red rice. Red rice, an enzyme of the red rice, and is menacholine. It is called menacholine. Yes, it must be available. I think it is a Japanese patent. And menacholine, yeah. Oh. Yes, and here DHEA, I will repeat it, that is not a hormone, that is only foodstuff to build, to produce hormones here. And then you have foodstuff for the production of all these hormones.
We talk a lot about cholesterol. How about another triglyceride? If the triglyceride,
What was the last?
another triglyceride, TG, triglyceride. How about the role of the triglyceride? TG.
Triglyceride.
So triglyceride, yes.
How about the triglyceride?
Yes, I know. Yeah, triglyceride. Yes, triglyceride. Yes, I don't regard the triglyceride because when you handle with cholesterol, it is always better with triglyceride too. That is not isolated in my cases. According to my experience, they go parallel.
And right now, my patient, a lot of patient has high triglyceride but normal cholesterol.
Oh, that is not my experience, but perhaps it is the problem of the food. The food, but here that is not my experience. And here. Here, DHEA protects from heart circulation disorders. High cholesterol, DHEA. DHEA, high cholesterol, it is very important. Alzheimer, cancer, above all breast and prostate cancer, DHEA. As I told you, only good properties, DHEA. And infection, yes, high blood pressure. Autoimmune disorder is important too. Against loss of libido and so on and so on. Yeah, proof properties of DHEA. And no, it's very interesting, but we have not splenic peptides. They are very, very useful. Here the spleen is well known, and because then you stimulate the formation of killer cells, for example. For all blood cells, that is splenic peptides. Yeah. The scope of the dream, foci and tumor, we spoke about it. And thank you very much for your patience, but we cannot stop. And now mitochondriopathy starts. No, it is late, but an introduction. Mitochondriopathy is a chance for the patient and for the MORA therapist. Mitochondrial, and that is a decisive sentence. Mitochondriopathy is what the MORA therapist has practiced all along, plus some special compounds. For a normal conventional medical doctor, it is rather difficult to apply all these findings. But here, MORA mitochondrial is what the MORA therapist has always practiced. For you, it is very easy to find an access to the mitochondriopathy. That's it. And now here's some, you must read this. In last 30 years, we have no progress in concerning the treatment of colon, lung, mamma, prostate cancer. Not attained significant progress in the last 30 years. Nothing. We can prove that. This frustrating outcome asks for a critical reassess of the entirely approach of the former genetics of tumors. And now, that is my conclusion. Could it be that the capitulation of the cancer problem, that's the only fixation on the mutation of the DNA, indicates the completely wrong track? And 40 years ago, and when Nixon was the president of the United States, and it was just some years ago that they reached with a rocket the moon. And then he said, the second aim I have, Nixon, that is to fight against the cancer. And $1 billion for the medicine to detect the origin of cancer. And he said, oh, in 10 years, 40 years ago, in 10 years, the problem will be solved by our specialists. Nothing. The tumor is increasing. Only some tumors of the blood and with children. And so perhaps the fixation of the DNA, the complete wrong track. Perhaps. And then, could it be that the mutation of the DNA is not the primary and the causal event, but is a secondary phenomenon of another reason which is not explained up to now? That is my first theory. Here you have away from the DNA, away. That is, and then that is the old idea. Mutation is primary, old idea. No progress in therapy over 40 years. And then, when we focus on the mitochondria, then the new idea, mutation is secondary. And I tell you why. and mitochondria accessible to therapy. We know a lot of the mitochondria, and the good information is mitochondria are accessible to therapy. That is a big difference. The DNA is very well protected, very well, and medication cannot pass into the DNA. It is well protected, and therefore it is not accessible. Now, the mitochondria could be the key element for the solution of the cancer problem. Now, here, why? Here, the function of the mitochondria, of the mitochondria, is known. The elements, all elements are well known. And the toxic effects, free radicals and others, are well known. We know a lot of the mitochondria. And the consequence, the membranes of the mitos are very delicate and permeable. Not to the DNA, to the nucleus. It is very difficult to pass through the nucleus. But here is the high leakiness is good for medication. The high leakiness of the mitochondria. But also high leakiness is permeable for the toxins, for example, the environmental toxins. Now both you have. For medication, high leakiness, and high leakiness for the toxins. And now here the nucleus is however, very solid and little permeable. Yes, and here mitochondriopathy is always a multi-system disorder. Always. And we experience here with our patient, there's a lot of things were wrong. And therefore, always, that is typical here, mitochondriopathy, a multi-system disorder. Brain, nervous system, muscular system. Every time when there is a mitochondriopathy, the entire body is involved, because every cell has mitochondria. Here, we have always you have to think of mitochondriopathy. And here, once more, here, mitochondriopathy is always a systemic disorder, and cancer, therefore, is a systemic disorder, is mitochondriopathy. Is never a local event. Only the locus minoris resistentia determines where the tumor will emerge. Yes, and that is the decisive finding of the last years. 4 billion years ago, life emerged on our Earth. Life 4 billion years ago. And these archaebacteria, we call that was the first living being here on Earth. Archaeo, that means very old, archaeobacteria. But they were without a nucleus, And it didn't use for the metabolism oxygen. This archaeobacteria didn't use here oxygen. Why? Why not oxygen? When there is a fire, you always need oxygen. And yes, because at that time there was no oxygen on Earth. Therefore, it had an anaerobic metabolism. And without consumption of oxygen. And then 2.5 billion years ago, the protobacteria emerged. Protobacteria. And with a cell nucleus and oxygen consumption. Why now? Yeah, because of the volcanoes, there's a lot of oxygen, of compounds which contained oxygen. We had a lot of these compounds and with oxygen. And there the atmosphere was formed in that time. And with oxygen consumption. And now, that is a decisive point. 2 billion years ago, there was a unification. Unification between here, the archaeobacteria, and the protobacteria. And I call it, that was the stroke of genius of the nature. That they both came together. The one with oxygen and the other one without oxygen. And then they archaeobacteria, protobacteria, and we call them eukaryocytes. Eukaryocytes. And every cell, every being on our Earth consists of eukaryocytes. Plants and animals and all that, they are formed by eukaryocytes. It's very interesting, I think. And yes, and why is it a stroke of genius? So why? Because we have both. In the archaeobacteria, we have much information, that means DNA. DNA has both information, but in the DNA, very little energy. And in the protobacteria, these are today the mitos, the mitochondria, the mitos. And in the protobacteria, they have little information. Yes, in the mitochondria, you have information too, like the DNA. And we call that mito-DNA, mDNA. It is always inherited by the mother, not by the father. And protobacteria, little information, but much energy. Why much energy? Yes. You see, here, protobacteria again, archaeobacteria without nucleus, with cell nucleus, and the unification, and then you have here nowadays the mitochondria, and you have not one, as I learned at the university, that there is only in every cell one mitochondria. That was, we know that we have 1,500 mitochondria in every cell, and in the heart cell even 3,000 mitochondria. Also here you see, these ones, these are the mitochondria. And what is it, the mitochondria? Yes, again, mitochondria. And yes, and this is mitochondria. Mitochondria. And because when there is a fire and there is oxygen, then you have a lot of energy. But when there is no oxygen, the fire is very, very low. The fire is very low. And what is the fire? Is ATP. ATP is the fire. And then here you see a mitochondria, and then you see the different steps. What do they need in the mitochondria? Here, they need vitamin B3. We need Q10. We need copper. We need especially magnesium in the mitochondria. All that vitamin B6, there is vitamin B6 and vitamin B2. And therefore, we know all the function of the mitochondria. And that is, and we can measure it, here determine it with MORA. It's no problem. MORA, mitochondrial, what the MORA therapy has done always. Here, and that these are in several steps, the mitochondria. And then here you need, for the first step, you need Q10, for the next Q10, for the next Q10, for the next Q10, and now you see that is decisive, the Q10. Without Q10 here, a deficiency of Q10, then there is a mitochondrial passive with your wife. But we can treat it. It is no problem. It is no problem. Then you see here, and here at the end you have ATP. ATP is our fuel for the motor man. And here the complex. These are the complex. 4 complexes. Complex 1, Q10, B2, B3, and so on. And complex 2, Q10, and so on. And magnesium and copper. And you have to regard all these steps, but it is in our test kit. In the ELH, you have all the substances in it. It's no problem. And now, here the chemotherapy. Chemotherapy. Yes, that is not my idea. You see, I copied it from a book, and it is well known that here, when there is a chemotherapy with fluorouracil, it is very common chemotherapy, or with methotrexate, or with cisplatin, very common chemotherapy. But it is always combined with a deficiency of B1